"22-year-old Vesna Vulović did the impossible when she emerged alive after a 33,000-foot fall, entering the Guinness Book of World Records for surviving the longest fall without a parachute. Vulović was a stewardess on an unfortunate Yugoslav Airlines flight from Copenhagen to Belgrade, during which the Ustash separatist group planted a bomb in the cargo. As the bomb went off, the plane crashed into the mountains, killing all 28 passengers and the entire crew, except for Vesna. She was hospitalized with a fractured skull, 2 broken legs, and 3 broken vertebrae, but managed to survive and lead a full life afterward. Croatian music teacher Fran Selak has had more than a few meetings with death and survived all of them. Reaching the age of 85 was not a smooth ride for Selak. At the age of 33, a train Selak was on flew off the tracks into an icy river, killing 17 passengers, but not him. With a broken arm, Selak survived this close call, only to find himself in a plane 1 year later flying across Croatia. A door on the plane was blown away, and Selak was blown out of the plane with it. Believe it or not, he survived by landing on a haystack. Only 3 years later, he was on a bus, which plunged into the river and killed 4 people. But of course, not him. At the age of 41, the fuel tank in his car exploded, but he managed to react in time and escape certain death. Again, the same incident unbelievably repeated itself just 3 years later. 20 years after that, Selak survived 1 more car explosion and another bus accident, only to win the lottery and become a millionaire in 2003. He is truly the most lucky person of all time. Stella Maris College's Old Christians rugby union team from Uruguay had a mountain peak named after them when they tragically crashed into it while flying to Chile to play a game. The Glacier of Tears killed 12 people, leaving the others roaming through the vicious Andes on a temperature of 30 degrees below zero. Running out of the scarce food reserves they had, the survivors lost all hope when they heard via radio that the search for them had been called off. In the harsh conditions, they started dying off one by one, with the last ones standing eating their deceased friends, in a desperate attempt to keep on living. 2 of the bravest people managed to reach Chile on foot and inform the world that a group of 16 people were still out there, having survived an incredible 72 days. Anatoly Bugorsky worked as a researcher at the Institute for High Energy Physics in Prodvino. While checking a malfunctioning piece of equipment, a beam from the largest Soviet particle accelerator measured at about 200,000 rads went straight through his head. Bugorsky's face swelled up beyond recognition and started peeling off. The beam burned through parts of his face, his bone, and the brain tissue underneath. Astonishingly, although only 500 rads would normally be enough to kill a person, Bugorsky survived. His intellect was undamaged, and he continued his scientific career with much success. He did, however, lose his hearing in the left ear, with that side of his face remaining frozen due to the destruction of nerves. Roy Sullivan was a ranger in Virginia who made it to the Guinness Book of World Records by surviving being struck by lightning 7 times. Each strike did leave him scarred through. The lightning left him with minor injuries each time, such as the loss of a toenail or burning off an eyebrow. But some of the incidents had more serious consequences, such as setting his hair on fire, searing a shoulder, or leaving him with chest burns. Ironically, after a series of miraculous survivals, Sullivan ended his life at the age of 71 by suicide, apparently out of reasons unrelated to his bad luck when it comes to storms. Joe Simpson and Simon Yates dared to set on the mission of scaling the west peak of the Ciudad Grande, 20,814 feet high. The mountain is part of a mountain range in the Peruvian Andes. The ascent was made famous by Simpson's book Touching the Void, in which he describes the climbing and the falling. Simpson was wounded and fell 100 feet into an ice crevasse. He managed to survive and crawl back up to base camp. It took him 3 whole days. Truman Duncan had the most horrific accident you can imagine and survived it. He was just another passenger on a train when he accidentally fell off a train car in motion. He was swept underneath the speeding train and was literally cut in two. Duncan not only managed to survive the horrible event, but he stayed conscious for the next 45 minutes. He managed to get his cell phone out and call the paramedics himself. He underwent 23 surgeries, lost both his legs and a kidney, but miraculously made it out of the hospital alive. Aaron Larston was on a canyoneering trip in Blue John Canyon when a boulder fell on him. The boulder pinned his arm down, making it impossible for Larston to move. He tried to lift and break the boulder, but after 5 days he realized it was no use. Dehydrated and delirious, Larston finally got the courage to amputate his own arm. He managed to snap his own bone and eventually cut his arm off entirely, finally freeing himself from the boulder. Robert Evans, a 46-year-old homeless man, was a victim of a hit and run. He was patched up in the hospital and sent away soon after. On his way back to his camp, he got into yet another accident. He was hit by a train. To be more precise, he was knocked off a narrow railroad bridge and landed in a creek. Evans ended up back in the hospital only 7 hours after his initial accident. It's pretty miraculous that he survived being hit by a car, then a train just hours later. Mauro Prosperi took part in a 1994 marathon called the Marathon of Sands. Taking place in Morocco, the marathon was unfortunately swept away by a sandstorm, which caused Prosperi to lose his way and left him stranded in the desert. Running in the wrong direction, he ended up in Algeria, where he took refuge in an abandoned mosque. He survived 9 days by drinking his own urine and eating bats and snakes before he was found by a nomadic family who took him to an Algerian military camp where he was hospitalized.